Project 39 mini albums. This video is the first of the tutorials on how to make the 8.5 by 8.5 Life's a Bowl of Cherries mini album. In this tutorial today we're going to cover covering the cover, making the hinge, and making the base pages. So grab your crafting supplies and let's get started. Alright, we're first going to make the album cover. I have what was 2 pieces of 12 by 12. I cut one down to 10.5, so it's 10.5 by 12. It's probably going to be a little too long, but I will trim it later. I'm going to use the lines on my desk, the wood green, if I can see it, there we go, to help line this up. So I'm going to place this here, make sure it's straight, and then burnish. So we have one long piece of paper that's about 23.5 inches now. Now what I want to do is put the spine in the center, and by the way, I've got a more involved video on my channel if you want to see how I make my album covers. There's 2 different ways, and I'm just doing the one way because I originally was intending to wrap my cover, which I may do with this one. Anyhow, I place this in the center. And push that down. I know it's hard to see because I'm using black chipboard. If you don't have black chipboard, you don't need it. I mean, we're going to cover it all up. I used it for some home decor pieces, and it was nice having the black. So I still am using that. But any chipboard would work. I would not use cereal boxes or corrugated cardboard for your cover of the mini album. Cereal boxes are not that thick. I suppose you could layer them up, but I prefer a heavyweight chipboard. So I put in 1/4 inch score tape on both sides of my spine piece, and now I peeled that up, and I am going to take my cover and lay it right next to it. Now I'm putting it just slightly on my double-sided adhesive that's there. So this is not quite 1/4 inch. It doesn't need to be exactly 1/4 inch. So there's one. Oh, and by the way, I already had put the double-sided adhesive on the back, so it's sticky on the back, and I already have peeled it. So again, I'm placing this, making sure it's parallel. I don't want it wonky. And there we go. So I have both of my chipboard pieces down. I'm going to turn this over, and with the edge of my bone folder, I'm going to burnish. And then using my table, I'm going to push this down and just get a good burnish. Alright, now I'm going to grab a pair of scissors. I have a long-handled scissors, and I'm simply going to cut across my paper, staying about 1/8 inch away from the corner of my chipboard. You don't want to come too close, but if you do, all you do is take your cardstock and glue it right there on the corner. But anyhow, 1/8 inch away from the corner of the chipboard. I know it's easier if I had some regular craft colored chipboard, but unfortunately I don't. Alright, I am taking some glue, some liquid adhesive, and again I go into details on liquid adhesive on that mini album cover tutorial on my channel. but I am telling you I am using the Designer Dries Clear adhesive from the Art Glitter Institute. Some people like to use double-sided permanent adhesive here, and if that's what you want to do, that is fine. I find once I get this down, and we're going to cover it all anyhow with other cardstock or pattern paper. Where's it going to go? Your chipboard cannot escape. It is in here permanently. Well, once you get it glued. Although I will say the using a double-sided clear tape will help hold down the paper while the glue is drying. All right, we'll do this side. So again, a bead of glue. What this does is it moistens the fiber of the paper, and it'll help it fold a little easier. So again, push this against my surface. I'm using my fingers to do the preliminary fold, and now I start at the center where my spine is and go out. Now there's a little bit of an air pocket there. That's all right. I'm just sort of pushing that towards where the center, that the gap is, and that'll be fine. All right, and now I'm going to take the corner of my bone folder and push in that little triangle piece. And again, take some liquid adhesive. Push up against the side, pull it over. I'm burnishing as I go. And one more side, I'll push up here. And that is all you need to do to cover your mini album. I do take my bone folder, and it's got a blunt point to it, and I push down in that channel between the spine and the cover. And what I'm looking to do is have the double-sided adhesive, that 1/4 inch tape that we put there, I want it to stick to right here and right here. And if you have to, bend your cover. So I'll do the same here, just push in and then bend your cover. And then finally, I like to take the edge of my bone folder and go across the top. I just feel like that gives it a nice crisp look. And there's the cover. All right, now we're going to move on to making the hinge. All right, to make the hinge, we're going to need a piece of cardstock that's 8 by 11. So I have the 11-inch side at the top. Let us start scoring. Oh, yeah, let us start scoring at 1 3/4, 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 4 1/2, 3 1/4, 3 3/4, I'm sorry, 4 1/2, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/2, 7 1/4, 7 3/4, 8 1/2, and 9 1/4. So you should be able to see a pattern. We have 2 hinges that are 3/4 of an inch, and then a 1/2 inch gusset. Hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge. Now, if you're used to making hinges in mini albums, then you can bypass this step. But if you're not familiar with how to make a mini album, I want you to just make light scores so you know how far your pages need to go. And they're going to be 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of each page. So I will tell you where to put it. So very lightly score at 2, score at 3, score at 4 and 5. You see the pattern here? 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now I hope it's not going to confuse you, but they're much lighter than the other ones. So again, we have a hinge here and a hinge here, and this is the gusset. So what I want you to do is fold at the top of each hinge. So we have 2 hinges. Here's where we're going to fold. So I'm going to turn this upside down and fold this towards me between those 2 3/4 of an inch marks. I'm going to go to the next one. So there's a gusset. So this is a hinge. And this is a hinge. So we're going to fold here. So I'm going to mark G for gusset. So we'll fold in between the next set of hinges. And then fold between the next set of hinges. And when I fold and burnish, I'm making sure my lines are lined up properly. I don't want it to be wonky at this point. And then there's one more set of hinges. And listen, if you don't get it right, number one, it's no big deal. Just unfold it and fold it the way I'm telling you. But if it confuses you, then just grab another piece of paper. All right, so now you see we've got 4 sort of mountains and lots of score lines. So I'm going to hold my thumb down on the close to the gusset with my fingers, my 4 fingers at the top of the page, and pull it towards me so that little mountain becomes a bigger mountain. And I'm going to pull that together and pinch it, and we're going to hold those 2 3/4 inch hinges in between our fingers and pinch it together, and then fold at the base so that stays together. So you're going to have something that looks like that. Can you see that? And we'll do the same with the next one. So the mountain's going to come up. We're going to fold that. Go first one way, then the other at the base. Do that with the third one. And those 1/4 inch marks that we're going to use, it should not be folding on those. They were very light, so it shouldn't be folding on those. And then I'm doing the last one. So now when you pull this together, you've got your 4 hinges standing up. It's still not glued though, and that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to grab my glue. I'm going to open this up a little bit. So I don't want to go right to the edge because the glue will seep out, and you don't need to do both sides, but I'm going to just zigzag across and then zigzag at the top. You could do the bottom too, but it's really just wasting glue. You don't need it. So we've got the glue in a zigzag, and at the top, I'm going to grab something so my desk doesn't get messy. And I'm going to pinch that again and go back and forth so that glue just sort of smears all over and it adheres nicely. I'm going to pinch at that base. Second, but I just want to use our finger first. All right, now I'm going to fold that first one that we did, and then take the one all the way to the left and burnish, and then the one all the way to the right and burnish. Okay, and then I'm going to take my bone folder and gently, because the paper is a little wet and you don't want it to rip. And then I'm going to find that little channel where the spine and the front page meet and just push down in that channel. Now there should be, I'll show you on this one, you still can see our tape here. I didn't have glue down, so you should be able to get this paper to go into that channel and sort of attach itself to that center part. I'm taking this out. So push hard, but don't rip your paper. You know, and if you rip your paper, no big deal. Just take a piece of paper and glue it right there. It's, you know, it's not the end of the world. All right, now I'm going to add some more glue to this wing piece. And I'm going to burnish that. I'm going to go back here. And find that channel. Push my paper. If I have to go back, I don't know, 10 times back and forth, every time go a little bit deeper, that's what I have to do. And I'll lift my book up a little just to make sure it attaches. And then I'll add glue here, a little there, and take my bone folder and burnish. Now at this point, you might want to close your book and look at your handiwork, but don't. Leave your book open so this part dries a little bit. I'm going to take my bone folder and burnish first one way, then turn this all the other way, and do it the other way. Now these are longer hinges than I usually make, but I made it that way for people who have not made mini albums before because we had that little mark on here. So we're done with that. Let's let this dry. In the meantime, I'm going to erase all my chalk lines, but I'm not going to fold it until, I don't know, give it half an hour to dry or overnight. And then you can fold your book, close it up, and look at your handiwork. All right, we're going to move on to the pages. Okay, we're making base pages. This is going to be really easy. So you'll need 8 pieces, 2 for each, that are 7.5 by 8.5. Score 1/2 inch with the 8.5 inch side at the top for all 8 pieces. So I'm taking the long side at the top and I am simply scoring at 1/2 inch. And we'll do that with all of the pieces. But for right now, I'm just doing 2 to show you what we're going to do with it next. Now, if you have 12 by 12 paper, you could make one piece 9 inches by 7.5, the other one 8 by 7.5. But this is easy, and it's great if you have 8.5 inch paper. So I am burnishing on the fold line for both these pages. And then I'm taking one, turning it upside down, and putting the fold line on the outside of both. making sure it's straight. Then I'll go ahead and take my glue and add it to my little tab, little 1/2-inch tab. And again, making sure this is pushed up and straight. And then we'll do this. You could, if you wanted to, miter at the corners. I didn't. You don't have to. And so what we have is now a tube, and that is going to be our base page. By having the tab on the outside of the page, when you put your hidden photo mat inside, it's not going to get hung up on anything. And we're going to cover it, so it doesn't matter. So go ahead and do the rest of the pages that way. Alright, now we are going to put the pages on the book. So, of course, they're tubular, and they will fit. They will fit. You know, the first dry run, they fit perfectly. There they go. They will fit on each of the hinges. Now, the reason we made that 1/4-inch score mark on the base of each one is so you know how far you can go down with your page. It sort of gives you a baseline. A note, if for some reason the page doesn't fit, you can just take scissors. Let me get a piece of white paper. This is blue. You can just trim off a little bit off of each hinge so it will fit. Now, I did do a dry run and mine fit without a problem. Alright, so what we're going to do is add glue on that top 1/2 inch of each of the hinges, one at a time, and then slip the page on. So again, we don't have to go crazy. You want enough so it sticks, but not so much that it drips out. And make sure you don't put it down past that 1/4-inch line that we made. So I will again put this page on, and then I will make sure it goes to that 1/4-inch line and burnish. And that should also, yep, so that brings it to the 1/4-inch line here. And that's all you have to do to attach the page to the hinge. So let's go ahead and do the other ones. You could use score tape or a permanent double-sided adhesive if you wish. I prefer using the glue now. I did used to, when I first started making mini albums, use the dry adhesive, but I found over time that the liquid adhesive seems to have a longer lasting holding power. They don't become detached if you add enough and do a good job of burnishing. And honestly, the same with the permanent double-sided dry adhesive. I've never really had a problem, but I could see in different environments where it would. So I've gone to using this glue. It is my glue of choice. I use it to make cards. It works for just about everything, but you do what you have is available to you and what works for you. Your conditions might be drier or more humid or whatever than I have. Okay, making sure this is on that 1/4-inch line. And at the same time, I'm making sure it's even with the other pages as well. And then I will burnish on both sides. And one more page. Perfect every time. Well, it isn't perfect every time. But you know, it's only the first step. If it's really wonky, yes, you'll want to redo it. But if it's off by a little bit, it's not a big deal. So there are our 4 pages in our mini album. And now we can continue with the tutorial. All right, fantastic. We are making progress. So we've got the cover, the hinge, and the base pages in. And next we will get started with the different elements in the pages. Okay, like this video and look in the description box for the next video in the series, and I'll see you there. Have a fabulous day.